All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Errol Spence Jr., sparring partner, releases a lot of information about Errol. And if what he's saying is true, Danny Garcia is in a lot of trouble. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So Burley Brooks is a sparring partner for Errol Spence Jr., and he has shared a lot of information, a lot of inside information on an interview that he did. A lot of inside information about the Errol Spence Jr.'s training camp, but also things that Errol Spence Jr. said to him immediately after his accident. And I think the combination of these things, this information gives us a lot more clear view of where Errol Spence Jr. is in preparation for Danny Garcia, what his, the extent of his accidents were, and and all of that. And the long and short of it is that Danny Garcia, man, look, dude, you really gonna have to come out here and fight, because I think you got a completely different animal in front of you. But let's go in it first. Now, go through it first. Burley Brooks is a sparring partner for Errol Spence Jr. He's also trained by if Errol Spence Jr. beats Danny Garcia on Saturday, the trainer of the year, Derek James, is also Mr. Brooks' trainer. And he was asked a bunch of questions like, what happened? What's Errol Spence Jr. doing in training? And then he also talked about the car accident and what he knew immediately after the car accident. Right, so let's go through the two things. First things first, we'll go through what he said about the car accident, because that's, probably the quickest thing. He said that he got a call from Errol Spence Jr. The first time that he talked to Errol Spence Jr. after the accident, Errol Spence said, yeah, man, I got a couple broken teeth, some bumps and bruises, but other than that, I was really fortunate. I got out of there okay. That is what Errol Spence Jr. told Burley Brooks after the accident. Let me also tell you that I spoke right after the accident with Errol Spence Sr. maybe 2-3 weeks after the accident. I made sure there was a lot of time before I called him and I asked him, and he was like, look, Errol's getting back in there to fight. We were very, very fortunate. We were really blessed. There was a lot of scary moments there from the beginning when we didn't know what was going on, but he got checked out. He got checked out by everybody, and multiple people. And he said, look, he doesn't have any broken bones. He has some broken teeth, and there's nothing preventing him from going on to work and continuing to earn a living in boxing. Now that's what I was told. That's what Mr. Brooks, Burley Brooks, was told. So I think, at this point in time, it's the same story that everybody's telling from multiple angles. And so you have to think, okay, there's probably some credence to that, because his father, his trainer, and these guys are not going to put him out there if they don't believe that he can take that he's okay. Now, as far as the sparring goes, what Burley is saying about the sparring is even more enlightening to me, because I watched Errol Spence Jr. spar, and I can personally tell you, I watched him spar for the Sean Porter fight, that what he's describing is not what I witnessed. Okay, this is the guy that I witnessed training for Sean Porter. When I was watching him, I think he would have a hard time doing what it is that Burley is saying that Errol Spence Jr. is now doing in camp. And that is sparring between 14 and 18 rounds, right? He said that Burley said he's sparring him 14. Other guys are sparring him 18 rounds. When I watched Errol Spence Jr. preparing for the fight with Sean Porter, you know how many rounds he sparred when I watched him? 6, maybe 7, but I believe it was 6. And in about 6, and they switched out sparring partners, went from a really big guy to a smaller guy. And I can tell you, dude, that his endurance did not look like that, right? Where I figured, he could keep going for another, what I see him spar 6. Did I think he would be able to go full force for another 12? Nah, not at the time that I saw him, and it wasn't that far off from the fight. So from the conditioning aspect, most certainly Errol Spence Jr. is in better shape now going into the Danny Garcia fight than he was going into the Sean Porter fight. And that is from me listening to what Burley's describing and me actually having sat and watched Errol train for his last camp, even watching Errol hit the bags, because it's in the same, it is in the same gym, right? I mean, I recognize the gym, recognize the metallic, the metallic wall on the back, all of that. It's the same gym that Derek and Errol work out for the last fight. And I promise you, his body looks different. The way that he's hitting that bag looks different. His mind, his body, everything looks different from when I saw him. And that's what Burley is saying. Burley's like, I haven't seen him. Like, when Burley was asked what the biggest difference between him then and now is, he was like, look, he looks better because he has a much heavier, he's like, the work ethic is really there. Like, this guy is really grinding, really going the extra bit. He looks in tremendous shape. He looks way better than he did before. And why is that? I think that is obviously because of the accident, right? Errol Spence Jr. is now in a different position than he was when he was fighting Mikey Garcia and when he was fighting Sean Porter. When he was fighting Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter, everybody expected Errol Spence Jr. to run through him, right? And to win the fight and run through him. But he didn't do that. And so people are like, oh, I don't know about the performance and all that. But if you believe what Errol Spence Jr. says, and this is another reason that I think that it is so essential, well, not essential, but why I just, everything could turn out that I'm completely wrong on Saturday, but I do not believe that I am, primarily because Errol Spence Jr. is not a liar, right? Like, you can listen to the questions, the way that he's answering questions about, like, how do you feel, Errol? He was asked, how do you feel about the first time that you sparred? Errol said, well, honestly, it was really weird, to tell you the truth. Like, I felt awkward. It felt kind of funny. But after a while, it got to feeling the same way that it always felt, right? That's somebody that is telling you and giving you an honest critique of himself. He didn't come out and say, oh, everything is perfect. I jumped right in there like I didn't miss anything. He said it was kind of awkward. That's somebody that is really telling you the truth. Also, like the way he answered questions about Terrence Crawford and when the Terrence Crawford fight was going to happen. And when he said, oh, I'm going to clean up my side of the street, and then I'm going to go get him. Well, what has he done? He stayed consistent to that plan of trying to collect the other belts that Terrence Crawford does not have, right? He didn't have to tell people that that's what he's going to do. He could have been like Manny Pacquiao, like, yeah, why not? Even though he knows perfectly well why not. Manny Pacquiao, that he didn't want to fight Errol, right? But he said, why not? Because he's not being truthful, right? He's giving you an answer that is non-committal, kind of vague, but yet doesn't allow you to run off and say, oh, Manny Pacquiao's ducking Errol. Errol's just going to tell you the truth, right? And he doesn't, kind of like Deontay Wilder. Those guys just don't seem to have like a phony bone, not a funny bone, but a phony bone, right? Like not true phony, hold the phone, phony. Phony, he doesn't have like some phony, a phony bone, right? Where he's just going to tell you things that you want to hear, right? He's going to give you that fake smile and act like he's a lot nicer than he is. You just don't get that out of Errol Spence. So I do believe if there was any question really about his conditioning heading into this fight or his ability to take punches, I do believe that these guys, if they wouldn't have said it, they would have pulled out of the fight and not made it happen and then let people know, nah, I don't really think we're ready yet. And that's why, but Errol said, no, I'm 100%, I'm ready to go. That's why he wants Danny Garcia. Now, the sparring itself, that's the last thing we'll talk about is the actual sparring, that the fact that he's sparring 18 rounds. If you're sparring 18 rounds, dude, you're taking shots. You're taking shots to the body. You're taking shots to everywhere except for the head because you got headgear on, right? But other than that, dude, he's taking the shots to the body. He's doing all that. And he's taking shots to the head. He's getting used to getting hit. This length of a training camp and being on weight this early for training camp for Errol, and that I just think Danny Garcia more than likely is going to get ran through, man. Like, or not run through, but I think he's just going to get. I think he's going to get beat. I think he's going to get beat convincingly, but I think that he's going to get beat in a boxing match. Hopefully, along with Errol's, rededication to training and focusing on, really, really being the best that he can be. I also think that Errol probably has matured a little bit and is going to realize, look, man, I need to just get out of here with this fight, right? I don't need to be in any type of war with Danny Garcia because there's just no need to take that punishment if I don't have to take that punishment. Let me get past Danny Garcia and then get to the next fight. So despite all of the, not despite, with all of the sparring and the training of rounds, 18 rounds, sessions, that's going to help his conditioning. The conditioning is going to help him box the entire 12 rounds and just get out of there with Danny Garcia. If at some point in time he hurts Danny Garcia or he can start working on Danny Garcia serious, he probably will do that. But for this fight, I think he's just going to win it, just outright outboxing him, get to the next fight, get stronger, have a whole nother training camp, right? Let your body get even better. And then, boom, Canelo Alvarez, because I think that's his next move. But anyway, that's my take on the circumstance. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.